Welcome back to Beyond the Verdict, the podcast where we go beyond the courtroom and uncover the stories behind some of history's most shocking legal cases. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jordan. Today, we're talking about a man who convinced world leaders, celebrities, professional athletes, and thousands of ordinary people that he had discovered the secret to safe, consistent wealth. He flew in private jets, owned a Caribbean island, was knighted, rubbed shoulders with presidents, and then it all came crashing down. This is the unbelievable story of Allen Stanford and the $7 billion fraud that fooled the world. Jordan, if someone told you a billionaire banker guaranteed higher returns than everyone else while somehow taking less risk, would you believe him?
Today, probably not. Back then, thousands absolutely did. Allen Stanford wasn't some guy operating out of a garage. He looked like success itself. Expensive suits, luxury yachts, private helicopters. He sponsored international cricket tournaments, owned banks, and lived the kind of life most people only see in movies. That's what made him so convincing. He didn't just tell people he was wealthy, he showed them. Everywhere you looked, there was another symbol of power. And investors thought, if he's this rich, surely he knows what he's doing.
His crown jewel was a bank based in Antigua. It offered certificates of deposit, basically investment accounts, with returns that looked almost too good to be true. The strange part? While global markets were rising and falling, Stanford's bank claimed to deliver steady profits year after year. No surprises, no crashes, no bad years. Just reliable growth.
Which sounds incredible, until you stop and ask one simple question. How? How does anyone beat the market every single year? Professional investors couldn't. Wall Street couldn't. Yet somehow, Allen Stanford supposedly could.
That's the question almost nobody asked. Because when everyone else is making money, questions become inconvenient.
Then came 2008, the financial crisis. Banks were collapsing. Stock markets were tumbling. Entire fortunes disappeared overnight. But Stanford's investments? They supposedly stayed rock solid.
And instead of reassuring some people, it made others suspicious. Because if the world's biggest financial institutions were struggling, how was this one Caribbean bank somehow untouched? That didn't make sense.
Investigators started looking deeper. At first, nothing dramatic, just paperwork, financial statements, investment records, routine questions. But the deeper they dug, the stranger things became.
Here's where the story starts feeling less like finance and more like a mystery novel. Investigators expected to find billions invested in legitimate assets. Instead, records were incomplete. Money couldn't easily be traced. Some investments barely existed. Others appeared wildly overvalued. It was like opening a vault expecting gold and finding painted bricks.
Imagine telling investors their money was backed by safe investments, only for investigators to discover that much of it wasn't where it was supposed to be. That's when panic began.
In 2009, federal agents stepped in. Properties were seized. Businesses were frozen. News cameras surrounded Stanford's empire. The billionaire who had spent years projecting confidence was suddenly fighting for his freedom.
He denied everything. His legal team argued that his businesses were legitimate, that market conditions had been misunderstood, that regulators had overreacted. But prosecutors painted a very different picture. They argued this wasn't a failed investment company. It was one of the biggest Ponzi schemes in American history. The courtroom became a battlefield. Former employees testified. Financial experts explained where the money had gone. Victims described losing retirement savings, college funds,
entire life savings. Some had trusted Stanford for decades. Others invested because friends and family recommended him. The emotional testimony was devastating.
And here's what always strikes me. Fraud isn't just about numbers. $7 billion sounds enormous. But behind every dollar was a person, a family, a dream. Someone who believed they were building a secure future.
After weeks of testimony, the jury reached its decision. Allen Stanford was convicted on multiple fraud-related charges. Later, he received a sentence of 110 years in federal prison. A sentence so long, it effectively ensured he would spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Even after the verdict, the story wasn't over. Court-appointed receivers spent years trying to recover assets for victims. Some money was eventually recovered. But for many investors, the losses could never truly be replaced.
This case leaves us with a question. How does someone convince intelligent, successful people to hand over billions? The answer isn't greed. It's trust. Stanford didn't sell investments. He sold certainty. He sold confidence. He sold the comforting idea that someone else had everything under control.
And that's exactly what made the scheme so dangerous. Because when trust becomes the product, people stop asking hard questions.
The Allen Stanford case reminds us that appearances can be carefully manufactured. Private jets, luxury offices, exclusive events, famous friends. None of them prove legitimacy.
Sometimes the biggest warning sign is when everything looks just a little too perfect. Next time on Beyond the Verdict, we'll examine another courtroom battle where millions vanished, and one small clue changed everything. You won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow Beyond the Verdict wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review and share this episode with someone who loves true crime and courtroom drama. Until next time, stay curious and always look beyond the verdict.